get it going.
Considering what popular culture presents to us as what demons are, what they do, what they look like, who they attack, etc., in your mind, personally, is that what you see? Like, do you see what's in the movies? Like, is that, I know a lot of people, that's how they're introduced to things like this. Like, if my dad had a religion, it would be movies. So that's the house that I belong to. So that would be my introduction to a lot of this, is movie and TV shows, and then later a little bit of religion. So, like, in your mind, if you have, especially if you have experiences with it, with what you've seen in popular culture, what you have, what your own personal demons, I guess, would look like in your mind, and then what you have seen, has any of that matched up? Like, what do you see? Do you feel like a lot of popular culture is reflective on people's legitimate experiences? Or is it based on the experiences, well, we got to amp it up because this is going to be the summer blockbuster movie, and we got to make it as body horror, abject horror as we can in order to really freak people out? Like, what I want to know what y'all think about that, because that if I could just have a degree in nothing but pop culture and make money off of that, I would 100% do that. I want to know what y'all think.
So I have real thoughts, but I want someone else to talk first, and I'll go last.
I'll go with, when I was a child, I saw, I knew I was in the presence of evil. I was very young, and my father even sensed it and grabbed me and like held on to me. I was in North Carolina in a country store, because when I was a kid, that's where we lived. And it wasn't that, it was a human, it was a dude. And before he even walked in the building, you felt it. So to me, evil isn't a thing you see. It was like an unbearable, I have got to get the hell out of here. And my father actually put the stuff on the counter and said, we need to leave, and drug me out. Like, he even knew that we needed to get out of there. It was a very strange experience. So I couldn't say I saw anything. I saw the man. I know he was staring at me, and I was the only kid in the store, and it was creepy as hell. But that's, to me, that was the creepiest evil thing I've ever experienced.
Anybody?
Steve?
All right. Well, you asked for it. So, first of all, the thing you said about movies exaggerating things heavily, I 100% agree with. And what you had just said about it being a feeling, I also 100% agree with. And you can't capture a feeling in a movie. So you have to make up for it with a visual or with some dramatic sound effect. All the experiences I had were just feeling. You know, I didn't see a physical thing. Well, okay, that's not entirely true. But for the most part, I didn't see a physical thing. The only time I saw something physical was in dreams or nightmares, as the case might be. It was more just, you're looking right the fuck at it, but you can't see it, but you could just feel it. You could feel the hot air coming off of it, is one way to think about it. You can feel the tension, you know. You can tell that it's looking right back at you as well. And what's so freaky about it is that you don't see any eyes. You don't see any shape. You know, why are we afraid of clowns? Because we don't know who they actually are. And it's the same kind of deal. So I don't think there's a physical thing associated with it. You know, the dreams I've had were always like the lanky, shadowy figure, you know, with the burning red eyes off in the distance, just kind of poking out from behind a tree, watching from the edge of the driveway, you know, just far enough away to close enough to know that it's there, but far enough away that it doesn't feel like it's right on top of you, I guess you would say. It's been the bulk of my experience as far as that goes.
Yeah, my experiences with things that I have, and it's, I can't even say I've come to believe, like you just, I immediately reacted physically, like felt it in my solar plexus. Like that feeling of dread when you are in fight or flight mode that instantly overcomes your body when you're legitimately in fight or flight mode, like when you're in a garage and, you know, there's something, you know, somebody dangerous looking, or, you know, somebody just not right looking comes start walking up to you or whatever, and you're alone. It's that feeling. For me, it's been that feeling that's come legit out of nowhere. I could be in a moment of pure joy. It's happened before where I'd been, and this is again rare in my life. I've had many instances of this, but I'm pushing 50. So like I've had an exorbitant amount of incidences of this for someone who is that old and who, you know, this is not a normal thing that happens. So the first thing that happens is that your senses vibe it for me. And it is like, and I'm going to get to what you're saying in a second, because there is something legit about some of the things that I've seen in media. The first thing is I have had instances where my body reacted before my brain knew what was happening. So I've had instances where my body was going into full physical flight or fight mode with the adrenaline and everything else going on. And I'm just like, what the hell's going on? Like, and your first thought is, am I having some kind of heart issue? Am I having a heart attack? Am I having like a full-blown, you know, panic attack? Some people, I don't believe I've ever had a panic attack, but some people like describe a panic attack in the way that it feels like it's hard to breathe, and you know, your stomach is flopping and you feel like all the blood is draining down to the lower extremities and all of that kind of stuff. And then you realize I'm in fight or flight. And within not even a whole second, then you realize that you're sensing something in the room with you. And then in a split second, at the same exact time, you're sensing where exactly it is and how big it is and how much it just loathes you. And you turn around. This has happened to me in my parents' garage. This has happened to me in this house. This has happened to me in environments outside even. And in different situations, you'll turn around and face the direction that you sense it in, and you cannot see a thing. But sometimes when you creep yourself out, say you're in the garage and you're closing the garage door and you feel something behind you and you turn around and it's not there and you don't feel it there, you only felt it behind you. Those times in my sense are the times when you just psyched yourself out. When you get that feeling, when your body reacts first, and then you have to work it out in your brain, why is my body reacting like this? And push your senses out even further, and you sense something and you turn around and it does not go away. You feel it right there, dense and heavy, but you can't see it. That's the check and balance for me, that something's legit there that I cannot explain. Sometimes I've experienced those things as dark black masses that have blocked light out from the street lamps, that have been all different sizes, all different shapes, most of them amoeba shaped. Once, just recently, was like tall and thin, and it was at the same time that directly afterwards I had seen multiple things in the media about shadow people and people talking about shadow people, and I'm like, what is this shadow people shit everybody's talking about? Like, what do they mean when they say that? And they're describing, you know, almost humanoid shaped shadow black masses. You know, for me growing up and being little, even, it was always like this huge dark mass that had like really changing edge shapes that would move in front of windows and stuff and block out light. So I would know that something was really there. Other times you don't see anything at all and it's just a vibe. Like you cannot pay me $1 million to walk in that room right now. Not $1 million. Not even when I'm living paycheck to paycheck. Not when, I'm wondering where my electric bill is going to come from. You offer me $1 million to walk in that room and I'm saying, nope, no way. So there's that. When you're talking about the media, Jess, there have been times when, my husband and I are sitting there watching a movie and we'll just kind of look at each other like they are onto something with this thing. Like there's something about what I'm seeing or vibing in this image that is familiar. That I don't know how to explain. There have been, and it's not often. For me, it happened. There was something in The Exorcist about Reagan. There was something in The Exorcist about that image that flashes, that white and black face that flashes. And there was something in The Conjuring with that nun. Not the movie The Nun, the Conjuring image of the nun. And it's not that it's a nun, it's something in that face is so particularly terrifying because it feels familiar. And I've never seen anything like that in my life. I've only physically seen something that I could recognize as something other than a black mass once. And I don't want to talk about that. But and it was shaped like it was a recognizable person, a very, very, very bad person. But there's been times, even when I've read Stephen King, now I'm a huge Stephen King fan from the time I was really young. And I think I became such a Stephen King fan because in reading certain parts of certain books, I'm just like, oh my God, I know exactly what he's talking about here. This feels so familiar. Like which makes me want to talk to Stephen King at some point, which would just that is just, oh my God, I cannot even imagine if that could ever happen. Can't even imagine if that would ever happen. But I want to talk to him for that reason, because I want to talk to him about where have you done research? And when you've done research for your novels, has there been anything that happened in your research that really spoke to you that you recognized? Or, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like, I feel like Stephen King in his writing taps into real shit every once in a while. I feel like certain filmmakers have tapped into legit shit every once in a while.
I'd be willing to put money down that he's writing from experience and not from research.
He talked about when he was young, he gets asked these questions all the time. When he was young, there was this haunted house or chapel or something that they would walk past back and forth to school every day. Him and a whole group of friends that he's still friends with because he's that down to earth and he's that cool, right? He has a garage band with them and everything. I'm like idolizing this guy. So they walk past this place every day and they clearly are creeped out by it. And I guess one day his friends literally went ahead of him and went into this place and let him walk past it alone. And they jumped out at him from the door. And he literally said that he just started screaming at the top of his lungs like a girl and just started ripping at his own face in terror. Like he was just terrified beyond comprehension. And I don't think that was one of the first scary moments that he ever had in his life, but he's susceptible to terror is basically what that story told us. So I would love to believe that he's one of us and that he's had experiences. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
what I had asked before about what you think about a lot of things that you see in pop culture. I really like what you said about how when you and your husband watch stuff, sometimes you see something and you're like, did you just put that directly out of my brain?
Yeah.
Because, bitch,
That's
I'm nervous.
an uncomfortable moment. That's an uncomfortable moment when that happens, because then it becomes more real.
Right. And this is the thing, is that because my dad liked to introduce me to a lot of stuff at a really young age, like my parents weren't really of the belief that like children shouldn't watch this, because they know, like, if you tell your kids don't do that, what are they gonna do? They gonna do it. They're gonna find somebody's mom that's like, yeah, sure, go for it. Like, they would rather me be traumatized in my own home than go to somebody else's house and be traumatized there and then call somebody at 3 a.m. Mom, can you come pick me up? I'm scared. Like, that they would do it, but they would rather be like, okay, like, you understand this is a movie, right? Like, that thing can't hurt you. And I'd be like, yeah, cool. Because there was a lot of stuff that I had, some of the stuff I remember, which is interesting. Before, it was like, sometimes you think you remember stuff, but then people will tell you their version of what happened, and that's how you start remembering it. But like, no, I 100% remember this on my own in my own little filing cabinet up here. But there was a lot of stuff that I would say to my parents, and they would be very confused. So like between the ages of like 3 and 6, there would be things that I would tell them that I have seen either while I'm awake or in my dreams, where I never would have seen anything related to what I'm telling them. Like, I wouldn't have seen a scary movie and then had a nightmare about it and been like, Mommy, I saw a guy in the closet. Like, that was not what was going on. I was telling them stuff, and my mom would just be like, okay, we'll deal with this eventually. And then my dad would be like, that's interesting. Let's unpack this and see what's going on. What are you really afraid of? Because like, oh God, which movie is it? Now I'm confusing them because the same actor plays Ed Warren. He plays in a bunch of other spooky films. Probably Sinister. Is that the one with the Darth Maul demon?
That one's Insidious.
No.
Insidious. There's like the guy's in all the movies with the demons. This poor dude. He plays this
Insidious.
dude
Insidious. He's in that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a fantastic actor. But like, a lot of people in their mind, that's what they see. They see the Darth Maul demon, like a little red dude with his shitty greasy hair and his red horns. And that's just been so prevalent for hundreds of years. And that has never been like my thing. Like, one of the things that is exceptionally spooky, and again, there's psychology behind this, is like the uncanny valley effect for me. And a lot of times they do that for scenes where people are getting high and they go to look at their friend and they're like, what the fuck? Where people have like exceptionally elongated faces, or you look at them and their eyes are just a little bit too big. Their arms are just a little bit too long. Like, your hands shouldn't go down past your kneecaps. Like, that's not right. Or they smile and it's just a little bit too wide and there's too many teeth and they're too sharp. That's always the stuff that I've had a problem with, because like Steve had mentioned before, there's a lot of things I see more in my dreams. And I say dreams because I'm not scared in them for them to be qualified as a nightmare or a night terror or something you might see during sleep paralysis. So it's one of those things where I had never seen anything like that at that age to be describing it with such like an exact detail. Like, I could have given a sketch artist and he would have been like, who the fuck is this? This is nuts. Like, y'all see this? Get this bitch to a psychologist. Like, this is not Like that's what would have been happening. So, but because my dad was so good with a lot of that stuff, like if he was going to put on a scary movie, he would tell me, like, this is going to, like, we're going to watch The Exorcist today, and you're going to sit down on this couch right next to me, and we're doing it in the middle of the day for a reason. All the blinds are open. You have your popcorn and your Capri Sun. You're good to go. You can hold my hand if you're scared. And I'd be sitting there like, this is the greatest shit I've ever seen in my life. Her head spins around. I run up the stairs like that. That's crazy. Like, that would be my outlook as a kid. And nothing, like, I don't even remember what I would have watched when I was younger. So he introduced me to like the Universal Classic Monsters, which for its time when it came out was absolutely horrifying to audiences. And it's scary when you're a little kid, when you see people, you know it's a person, you know it's a movie, you know it's an actor, but they don't look like how you've seen them in other movies, and you become confused and afraid. So like Bela Lugosi, awesome. I had seen him in a bunch of other stuff, except poor guy only played one dude his entire career, but good for him. But like I'd seen him in other stuff, so I was just like, okay, vampire is cool. But to see like Lon Chaney for the first time and the multitude of creatures that he had been, because it was still a person in there, that's what was spooky, to see somebody who isn't themselves. So like if I saw like a 7-foot tall demon with long boy legs and long boy arms, and he had red skin and pointy horns and greasy hair, I'd be like, okay, good for you. You need a shower? I got one. Why are you here? Like that would be more of what I'm in. Or perfect example, something I used to have a recurring nightmare about when I was a child was, for whatever reason, there would be a world-ending catastrophe, and I would have to get home from the bus, but the bus would never drop me off in front of my house. That's like a chronic fear of small children, is that you're never going to get home off the bus for whatever reason. And I would go into my house, but nobody's there. So my first instinct, for whatever reason, is to hide under the kitchen sink. And I can hear somebody coming into the kitchen, and they know where I am, and they're going to open the doors. And when they open the doors, I think I'm going to see something really spooky. But what is it? Who is it? It's fucking Wolverine from the X-Men. But I wasn't actually afraid of him.
Oh, okay.
In real life, just in my nightmare, because I was like, it's one of those weird confusion things, because it's like, I'm not afraid of him in real life, but Wolverine's here to kill me in my nightmare. That's what was scary to me, not like special effects creature makeup that a lot of people do, especially today, on a lot of specifically demons. And a lot of it has to do with that uncanny valley effect, like you had mentioned with the nun. That face looks so familiar. When you break down what a lot of these people are doing, they're taking basic like primal fears and just slapping that on a person to make you feel uncomfortable. Like people are terrified of spiders. I hate them. I'm not a fan. I'm hyper vigilant with spiders. And it's because of all the legs and all the eyes. Now take 8 eyes and put it on a people face.